And all these men. My name is Sudha Sadanand. Welcome to the South Indian.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
You're welcome to Unmissable with me, Nabila Jamal. Thanks very much for tuning in. 9 p.m. we bring you a power-packed hour of all the news from India and around the world. First up in our 3 segments, day to night, let's take you through S. Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, slamming the UN, calling out Western hypocrisy on Kashmir, says that the UN turned invasion into mere dispute. Then into our deep dive segment, Sunita Williams, who is nearing Earth now, touching down. The countdown begins. SpaceX capsule carrying the stranded NASA astronaut and Butch Wilmore all racing home. Of course, an insight into how this impacts their health. And finally, our viral watch segment on what's breaking the internet. Orry, the biggest internet sensation facing heat, alcohol in Vaishno Devi. I'm going to take you through all that news in detail. The headlines as always. Bindrewala posters on Himachal bus sparks outrage. Viral video from Punjab's Hoshiarpur triggers demands for action. Jaishankar slamming Western hypocrisy on Kashmir, says UN equated attacker with victim. Nagpur clashes turn political. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis calls it a pre-planned opposition, slamming law and order collapse. Of course, the opposition questioning what has the government done to preempt and stop this. Supreme Court's healing touch on Manipur. 6-judge panel to be visiting violence-hit relief camp on March 22nd. Home buyers get a ray of hope. Supreme Court orders CBI probe into builder-bank collusion over stalled projects. Karnataka's 4% Muslim quota bill has been cleared. The BJP gears up for a court battle now. Gold smuggling probe deepens. The DRI investigates Rania Rao's 90-plus foreign trips since 2020, and this at a time when she says and claims she's innocent. Voter ID Aadhaar link coming soon. Election Commission is all set to announce new mandate. Finally, Sunita Williams heads home. SpaceX capsule carrying stranded NASA astronauts all set to land late tonight. All right, let me take you through the Nagpur violence. As Nagpur burns, we're looking at priorities there completely crumbling. The last 24 hours has really raised several concerns on the priorities our lawmakers have. This is exposed what people really want, especially the politicians, people ready to spill blood over Aurangzeb, a 17th century ruler buried in Sambhajinagar, Maharashtra. All it took was literally one film, Chhawa, that reignited emotions among Maharashtrians over Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, who was brutally treated by Aurangzeb. How it all unfolded as tempers really flared. We saw politicians of the Mahayuti and Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Sena demanding that Aurangzeb's tomb be removed. And then quickly right-wing groups jumped in. In fact, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad as well as the Bajrang Dal jumped in, staged protests in Nagpur and burnt Aurangzeb's effigies. This is how it all started, and quickly rumors spread that these groups are, the protesting groups there, as you see on the CCTV footage, basically set fire to the Quran. The holy book was desecrated These rumors eventually erupted in chaos. Arson and mob attack on police and civilians that was completely widespread in Nagpur. In fact, rioters unleashed mayhem with swords, axes and sticks. It took Nagpur police literally hours to restore peace there. In fact, eyewitnesses claim that several distress calls were made to the police, but help came only an hour and a half later. The police too were attacked. 33 officers, including 3 DCPs, were injured. Now, instead of addressing the failure to control the violence here, politicians have conveniently blamed the film Chhawa for triggering unrest. Chief Minister Fadnavis has labelled this violence as pre-planned. The question, of course, remains on who let this spiral out of control.
नागपुर के महल इलाके में जिस प्रकार से तनाव की स्थिति निर्माण हुई, ये बहुत ही निंदनीय है। जिस प्रकार से कुछ लोगों ने पत्थरबाजी की है, पुलिस पर भी पत्थर फेंके हैं, ये बिल्कुल गलत है। मैं स्वयं इन सारी घटनाओं पर नजर रखकर हूँ। मैंने पुलिस कमिश्नर को ये कहा है कि कानून व्यवस्था बनाने के लिए जो भी कड़े से कड़े कदम उठाने की आवश्यकता हो उठाए जाए और शांति को बनाया जाए। अगर कोई दंगा करता है, कोई पुलिस पर पत्थर फेंकता है, कोई समाज में तनाव निर्माण करता है, तो ऐसे सभी लोगों के ऊपर कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई की जाए।
नागपुर में जो दुर्घटना हुई है बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। जो आगजनी हुई है, जहाँ पर कई लोग 2-4 हजार लोग इकट्ठा होकर जो समाज कंटक थे, उन्होंने कई घरों को वहाँ पर मोमिनपुरा है, महाल एरिया है, चिटनीस पार्क है, यहाँ पर इकट्ठा होकर लोगों के घरों को लक्ष्य कर दिया, टारगेट कर दिया। वहाँ गाड़ी खड़ी नहीं की। इसका मतलब ये होता है कि ये पूर्व नियोजित साजिश थी क्या? इसकी भी पुलिस तफ्तीश कर रही है।
Now, as we see, for 3 weeks, Aurangzeb has dominated Maharashtra's political discourse. The film's portrayal of his cruelty against Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj has fueled outrage, which certain groups have eagerly capitalized on. The opposition has lashed out at the government's handling of law and order, accusing them of using this controversy to distract and deviate from the real issues of farmers' suicide, women's safety and inflation. Let's hear it from the opposition.
नागपुर के इतिहास में, 300 साल के इतिहास में कभी हिंदू मुस्लिम दंगा वहां नहीं हुआ। ये आज जहां भारतीय जनता पार्टी केंद्र में भी है, राज्य में भी है, आखिर क्या कारण है कि ऐसा दंगा भड़का? पिछले कई दिनों से बीजेपी और उससे जुड़े हुए लोग और संगठन औरंगजेब की कब्र को एक मुद्दा बना रहे थे। औरंगजेब का इतिहास 300 साल पुराना इतिहास है। आज उसको एक विवाद का जरिया बनाना किसको सूट करता है, किसका उससे हित होता है, ये हमें सबको सोचना होगा। बजरंग दल और विश्व हिंदू परिषद ने एक प्रोटेस्ट की घोषणा की थी इसी मुद्दे को लेकर। क्या व्यवस्था थी कि कानून न टूटे, शांति न भंग हो, ये सवाल पूछना बनता है। नागपुर की जनता से हम सब अपील करते हैं कि आप शांति और अमन बनाए रखें। इस तरह की राजनीति जो विवाद पैदा करती है, इसका शिकार न बने, क्योंकि इससे आपका कोई लाभ नहीं होना। लाभ जिनका होना है वो सत्ता में रहने वाले लोग हैं, उन्हीं का लाभ होना है, आपका नहीं होना।
आप मेरी रिएक्शन पूछ रहे हैं नागपुर की घटना पे, लेकिन मुझे ये जानना है कि मुख्यमंत्री कार्यालय से क्यों ना कोई रिएक्शन आई जब अफवाहें फैलने लगी थी। जब भी किसी शहर में ऐसी घटना होती है, और ये तो खुद मुख्यमंत्री का शहर है, स्वयं उनका शहर है, मुख्यमंत्री भी है, वो गृह मंत्री भी है, और ये अनुमान लगाया जाता है, मैंने भी सीएमओ काफी नजदीक से देखा है, कभी भी ऐसी घटना होती है तो पहला रिपोर्ट सीएमओ को आता है, सीएम के मोबाइल फोन पे आता है, होम डिपार्टमेंट भी आता है, दोनों डिपार्टमेंट्स उनके साथ है। क्या उनको पता नहीं था ये होने वाला है? मेरा अंदाज यही है कि भाजपा को महाराष्ट्र का मणिपुर करना है। मणिपुर में अगर आप देखें तो पिछले 1 साल से जैसी बातें हो रही है वैसी ही दंगे हो रहे हैं, किसी ना किसी को जलाया जा रहा है, किसी को मारा जा रहा है। क्या आज वहां इन्वेस्टमेंट जाएगी? क्या कोई पर्यटन जाएगा? नहीं जाएगा। और यही उनको महाराष्ट्र का करना है, यही हाल उनको महाराष्ट्र के करने हैं। और जहां जहां भाजपा को शासन चलाने नहीं आता है वहां दंगे भड़काते।
जो स्टेटमेंट्स एमिनेट हुए हैं, जो स्टेटमेंट दिए गए हैं मिनिस्टर्स की तरफ से, अभी भी दिए जा रहे हैं, भाई आप रूल ऑफ लॉ को फॉलो करिए ना। आप तो भारत के संविधान पर आपने ओथ लिया है, तो आप कैसे प्रोवोकेटिव स्टेटमेंट्स क्यों दे रहे हैं आप? भाई मुझे किसी चीज कोई चीज पसंद नहीं है, आपको कोई चीज पसंद नहीं है, तो कोई भी अपनी नापसंद का इजहार कानून को हाथ में ले करेगा क्या? ये देखने की जरूरत है। तो ये बहुत गलत हो रहा है। सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है, ये सरकार की गलती है, इंटेलिजेंस की फेलियर है। उस जगह जहां से महाराष्ट्र के मुख्यमंत्री आते हैं और ये जो वायलेंस हुआ है हमारे केंद्र मंत्री के घर के करीब है पूरा, ये बड़ी गलत बात हो रही है।
Now remember, this wasn't just about right-wing outrage. Samajwadi Party MLA Abu Azmi fueled fire to this entire controversy, defending Aurangzeb as a good administrator and calling Chhawa, the film, a distortion of history. That one comment sent tempers soaring. 2 criminal cases have been filed against Abu Azmi despite him apologizing for what he said. The question here, of course, remains, do our leaders not see the triggers, or do they just deliberately ignore these triggers? They stoke fire, they let streets erupt, they leave police to finally bear the brunt, and it's always the people who end up paying the price. Now, shifting our focus to Karnataka's Bengaluru, the Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation, the BMRCL as it's called, has withdrawn its latest recruitment notice for train operators following some intense backlash and opposition from pro-Kannada groups. What's really triggered the controversy here was a March 12th notification by the BMRCL relaxing the Kannada language requirement for hiring 50 loco pilots on contract. The policy allowed candidates with no prior knowledge of Kannada to apply, providing, in fact, the clause that was given as per the notice there was that you learn Kannada language within a year from joining. Now, pro-Kannada activists strongly objecting to this move. They've argued that this marginalizes local job seekers and it favors non-Kannadigas to apply. The Kannada Development Authority, KDA, and several pro-Kannada organizations demanded an immediate rollback and a reversal of this order. Even Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar intervened, directing the BMRCL to reconsider this policy. Remember, the BMRCL is run collectively by the state and the centre. That's D.K. Shivkumar taking to Twitter to basically ask the thing. And we saw BMRCL quickly turning around, withdrawing this notice, reaffirming the government's commitment to protecting Kannada interests and ensuring fair representation according to them. Now, BMRCL is expected to revise its hiring policies to align with the state's regulations, ensuring that local candidates remain the focus here. But the question, of course, did BMRCL give in too easy? Karnataka's capital is a global tech hub, and imposing such strict language requirements could limit the talent acquisition, particularly for a metro system that serves a diverse population. In fact, what we would have expected was BMRCL to engage in a dialogue, tweaking the policy to strike a balance. They could have maybe made Kannada training mandatory before hiring rather than post-recruitment. But by caving in so instantly, it really sends out a precedent here to say that protests can dictate policy. Now, taking you through this gold smuggling case that's really rocked Karnataka Assembly and shocked the country alike. Ranya Rao's case that's being investigated thoroughly. As it gets murkier, the question remains, did Ranya Rao pull off this heist alone? Investigation now points to Ranya Rao's key accomplice here, and that's Tharoor Raju. Tharoor Raju, who's the son of a prominent Bengaluru hotelier. If you can show images of Tharoor Raju on our screens, we're going to take you through Tharoor Raju, who seems to be a budding star himself. That's him on the screen there. He's a budding actor. His father is a hotelier, seems to be running many star hotels in Bengaluru. In fact, we hear that they also run companies where they provide internet services in the city. So, someone who comes from a moneyed wealth background, but Tharoor allegedly helped Ranya Rao in this gold smuggling racket through their Dubai-based firm they set up together called Veera Diamonds Trading LLC. While Ranya was the sole investor here, Tharoor handled transactions under his name. Their company imported gold duty-free into Dubai, but investigators say that it was smuggled into India instead. She basically lied at the airport that she was taking that gold into Geneva and other countries, but post-immigration, she would then basically plan her way into India. Now, how she pulled that off, one only wonders. Investigation due to reveal a lot more. Ranya made nearly 27 trips last year alone, ferrying all that gold back and forth. Officials claim that she moved 1.7 crore from India to Dubai. That also now fuels suspicion of large-scale Hawala transaction. The case has rocked the Karnataka Assembly meanwhile. Many BJP leaders alleging a gold smuggling mafia with Hawala links. In fact, they suspect that there are two ministers also involved, and many of the opposition leaders there demanding that the ministers' names be disclosed. Who's involved in this case? Finally, the bigger question that looms here is how did Ranya Rao manage to walk through that airport premises, the arrivals of Bengaluru airport, with 14.2 kgs of gold strapped to her body? The Home Minister has now ordered a probe into possible misuse of protocol services at the airport. Who else is part of this smuggling network and a racket? Answers only could shake Karnataka's power corridors. All right, now Pawan Kalyan in Andhra Pradesh. Is he someone who is right now positioning himself as a driving force in Andhra Pradesh? Many questions being raised after the comment that he made at one of his own events. At the Janasena's 12th Foundation Day event in Pitapuram, the party chief made a series of bold statements suggesting that his party, not the TDP, in fact he particularly mentioned his Janasena party, to be the most critical role or played the most critical role in shaping the NDA's success. This is what Pawan Kalyan said, saying if not for me, the party wouldn't have come to power, that we wouldn't have come to power, collectively speaking of TDP. Now speaking at that massive rally, Pawan Kalyan declared that it was Janasena that revived the 40-year-old TDP when it was going through a rough and tough patch. He's credited his party for securing a 100% strike rate by winning all 21 seats it contested under the NDA alliance, and also claimed Janasena's support was really instrumental in NDA winning 164 seats in Andhra Pradesh. The actor turned politician has recalled his unwavering support for Chandrababu Naidu. In this lengthy speech, he's also gone on to say that when Chandrababu Naidu was arrested back in 2023, I was the one who stood by Chandrababu Naidu, the TDP Supremo. When the party needed me the most, I stood by him. Of course, he did not miss that opportunity to take a jibe at YSRCP. Reminded the crowds how YSRCP had once said and mocked that he would never be able to enter the assembly. But look at him. Today, he's celebrating a stunning victory with what he calls the Jaya Keetanam, the flag of victory. Boasts Pawan Kalyan at that event. Of course, questions being asked about Pawan Kalyan now positioning who really is leading and heading the party in Andhra Pradesh. Now, there was disturbing visuals that surfaced earlier today where we saw images and pictures, posters of Bhindrewala being posted on some of the buses that were plying from Punjab to Himachal Pradesh. As we look here, this viral video from Punjab's Hoshiarpur shows Dal Khalsa activists pasting pictures of Khalistani separatist Jarnail Singh Bhindrewala on Himachal's buses. The activists stopped vehicles from Himachal Pradesh forcibly, stopping them and pasting those posters on those buses. This comes just days after a row in Manali where tourists from Punjab displayed flags with Bhindrewala's image on their bikes. So far, no complaint has been filed formally here, but officials say that action will be taken against anyone trying to disrupt law and order. The issue, as expected, reached the Himachal Pradesh Assembly. The leader of opposition, Jairam Thakur, has called for strict action here, while Chief Minister Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu says talks with Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann will resolve the situation.
ये घटना देवभूमि हिमाचल प्रदेश में जिस प्रकार से घटित हुई है, ये कई तरह के संकेत दे रही है। एक हिमाचल प्रदेश में एक वातावरण और खराब करने की दृष्टि से एक चीज जो घटित हो रही है पिछले कुछ अरसे से मीडिया में भी आपने देखा होगा। हमारे पड़ोसी राज्य के नौजवान हिमाचल प्रदेश में आते हैं, उनका स्वागत है, लेकिन जिस तरह से हुड़दंग यहां पर मचा रहे हैं, जिस तरह से भिंडरावाला का फोटो लगा करके वो अपने वाहनों पर, गाड़ियों पर झंडे लगा करके उनके सम्मान में बातें कह रहे हैं, और जब उनको रोका जा रहा है तो वो कानून व्यवस्था की धज्जियां उड़ा रहे हैं।
Right, it was an interesting start to the Raisina Dialogue 2025. We saw a fiery talk by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. As always, he set the stage for a sharp debate and this time on Kashmir, delivering quite a piercing critique of the UN over its handling of Kashmir. S. Jaishankar, hitting hard, slammed the conflict that was misrepresented globally, arguing that it was UN's job to set the record straight. He argued that when India went to UN for intervention, an invasion was turned into a dispute. He held several Western nations accountable for shaping this narrative that challenged India's sovereignty. Now, with these strong words, S. Jaishankar has left the UN with a lot to answer for, a message that could reshape global conversations henceforth on Kashmir. Let's have a listen.
After the Second World War, the longest standing illegal, I would say, presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India. What we saw in Kashmir. Now, we went to the UN. What was an invasion was made into a dispute. So, the attacker and the victim were put on par. We speak today of political interference. When the West goes out into other countries, it's apparently in pursuance of democratic freedoms. When other countries come into the West, it seems to have a very malign intention. So I think we need, if to have an order, there must be fairness. I agree with you, Dominic, we need a strong UN, but a strong UN requires a fair UN.
All right, several headlines were made at the Raisina dialogue, an event where the intelligence officers from across countries and secret service officials gathered in Delhi. Very interesting to see Delhi as the central point for their gathering. In fact, officials from top 20 countries, including the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and a host of others who congregated all to discuss global security. Now, amid this backdrop, it was Tulsi Gabbard, the US Director of National Intelligence, who delivered a key address stressing that global peace is essential for security and prosperity. Speaking of US-India ties, Tulsi Gabbard underscored, America first is not America alone. Here's what she said. She says it was interesting to see that the country, across countries, intelligence officials came together to discuss, because global peace and security is of utmost priority now. Delhi really becoming the epicenter for global diplomacy. Let's hear it from Tulsi Gabbard.
The vast and critical region that's not just a geographic space. It is the geopolitical center of gravity for the 21st century. So ensuring stability here is essential to our collective security, our objective of economic prosperity, and our ability to work together to take on the great challenges of our time. And we must tackle these challenges together. So just as President Trump is committed to America first, putting the safety, security, and freedom of the American people at the forefront of his policies and his decisions, Minister Modi is committed to India first. This is the expectation of any leader's commitment to their people, to serve them, to put their interests at the forefront of their decisions. But this should not be misunderstood to mean that America first is America alone. The relationships that we build together are critical to advance our mutual interests. And it's why gatherings like this here at Raisina are so important.
Now, Tulsi Gabbard seems to have come under fire from Bangladesh for speaking on minority persecution. In fact, Bangladesh says she's been misinformed. Bangladesh sharply has rejected the US intelligence chief Tulsi Gabbard's claims on minority persecution, calling them misleading, baseless, damaging. In a strong statement, the interim government has dismissed her remarks, warning against linking Bangladesh to an Islamic caliphate. Here's what Bangladesh said, and I quote, "This statement is both misleading and damaging to Bangladesh's image, a nation known for its exclusive and peaceful practice of Islam and its fight against extremism and terrorism." This is precisely the words used by the Bangladesh interim government, a formal word that's coming from the government criticizing Tulsi Gabbard, further slamming Gabbard for making sweeping generalizations without evidence, and urged global leaders to avoid rhetoric that fuels sectarian tensions. What did Tulsi Gabbard really say that warranted this reaction from Bangladesh? Speaking to a media network here in India, Tulsi Gabbard claimed the US is deeply concerned about persecution of minorities, of killing of minorities in Bangladesh, of abuse of Hindus, Buddhists and Christians in the country. She's tied the issue to global Islamist extremism, warning that radicals aim to establish a worldwide Islamic caliphate. Gabbard is among the few global figures raising issue of minorities allegedly being persecuted in Bangladesh. Her remarks has now sparked diplomatic flashpoint, with Bangladesh on their part standing firm against these allegations. Shifting our focus to Gaza, 400 killed in Gaza, possibly the deadliest strike that Israel has carried out against Gaza in the last few weeks. As we see Gaza, that once was in barely a few days ago, not even a week that they managed to see peace, has now witnessed violence, and how 400 Palestinians we hear have been killed. Israel's heaviest bombardment since January ceasefire, staggering toll that at this point really that underscores the scale of devastation there. Gaza is already in ruins, and one can imagine the kind of pounding that's happened in the last 24 hours that's killed an additional 400 people. These strikes have come as Israel ramps up military pressure on Hamas, demanding the release of the 59 remaining hostages from its October 7th attack. Hamas refuses, says that they're going to keep those hostages with them until all civilians, Palestinian civilians that they've arrested are released. So this means that the war is unending, but at what cost? Israeli warplanes and tanks have pounded Gaza from north to south. Survivors say that bombings that have started now again feels like the war's first days. In Rafah, families who had cautiously returned after the ceasefire are fleeing yet again. Hospitals are collapsing under the weight of casualties. Images from inside Gaza show bodies wrapped in white plastic sheets. Many children who've died in this recent attack. We hear that aid deliveries to Gaza has also blocked off. They've been blocked off. That worsens the starvation and the suffering that they seem to be enduring. What we see here, though, Gaza, as much as it's left for itself, expected that there would be someone to come to their aid. But so far, we've seen most countries who remained silent on the matter. Middle East, for example, it's just watching in silence. Gaza's neighbors have really done little to intervene. And yet amid all the ruins, Gazan families, if I could show you some images here, Gazan families have all gathered for iftar. It's the month of Ramzan. Gazans there coming together amid the wreck and breaking their fast. Iftar in the shadows of war. And meanwhile, Qatar negotiations remain stalled. Hamas demands permanent truce but Israeli withdrawal, while Israel itself not giving much here to Hamas except for a temporary ceasefire. And Trump has possibly carried out the most ruthless deportation drive in recent history. His bid to deport Venezuelans has come under court scrutiny. The US judge now is demanding answers from Trump on whether his administration blatantly defied deporting hundreds of Venezuelans, a move that legal experts claim to be unlawful and unprecedented. This could be one of the harshest immigration crackdowns in recent times. In fact, the visuals speak for themselves. Families torn apart, forced into planes, their fate sealed. Trump's team flouting law to push mass deportation is a question. The court want answers.
A U.S. judge on Monday ordered the Trump administration to give details about the hundreds of Venezuelans it had deported, despite that judge blocking them from doing so. Judge James Boasberg also gave the administration until Tuesday to explain why it believed it had complied with his order. The White House said the more than 200 Venezuelans deported to El Salvador were members of the Tren de Aragua gang. The deportations happened over the weekend, many under an 18th century law known as the Alien Enemies Act, historically used only in wartime. Lee Gallant, a lawyer at the American Civil Liberties Union, spoke to reporters after Monday's hearing.
We had serious concerns going into the day that the government violated a federal court order. Today did nothing to dispel it. If anything, it reinforced that our view that the government may very well have violated this order, perhaps even knowingly violated. The president is simply thumbing his nose at Congress. Congress has said when you can use the Alien Enemies Act.
Also on Monday, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt defended the administration's move.
This administration acted within the confines of the law, again, within the president's constitutional authority and under the authority granted to him under the Alien Enemies Act.
Monday's hearing followed a request by the government to remove the judge from the case. And shortly prior to the hearing, the Trump administration said the judge's directive to return any planes carrying the migrants was not enforceable because it was not in a written order. The administration also said it did not violate a subsequent written order because the planes had already departed when it was issued. Several legal experts interviewed by Reuters viewed the flights as a direct challenge to the judicial branch's independence. Meanwhile, the president of Venezuela's National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, said the deported men were denied due process by the U.S. Since taking office in January, Trump has sought to push the boundaries of executive power, cutting spending authorized by Congress, dismantling agencies, and firing tens of thousands of federal workers.
All right, on that note, we're slipping into a short break, coming back with our deep dive segment on scores of home buyers who now finally get relief from the Supreme Court as the court steps in, cracks a whip on builders and banks. A lot more on that on the other side. Stay with us.
What does it take to be the greatest in the world? There is one thing which truly sets you apart. Your inner strength. Sodium TMT Reebok, true inner strength. I know that you and I, we are dreamers.
For an India that's chasing its dreams, this is the drive of your dreams. Introducing the all-new Skoda Kailak. Own your dream.
Skoda. ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಯೋಚಿಸಬೇಡಿ. ಪ್ರತಿ ತಿಂಗಳು ನಾನು ಕಪಿಲ್ ಚಿಟ್ಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೂಡಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆ ದುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕನಸನ್ನ ಈಡೇರಿಸಬಹುದು.
ಕಪಿಲ್ ಚಿಟ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕನಸುಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಾಕಾರ.
You work too hard. Work smart like me.
Why? Won a lottery, is it?
You can say so. I'm investing in a great scheme in the share market. High returns guaranteed.
Your high returns aren't Karan Arjun for them to definitely come to you.
Meaning?
Dad, there's risk involved in the share market. Nobody can promise guaranteed high returns. It's illegal to do so.
Really?
Yeah.
Soch kar, samajh kar, invest kar.
Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers. The Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas.
Welcome back. Our deep dive segment. Top focus here is how home buyers seem to get some relief thanks to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is now all set to investigate builders and banks in the NCR housing scam. Home buyers in the National Capital Region can finally breathe the sigh of relief. AI probe is what's expected to crack on the nexus between builders and bankers using subvention schemes to exploit buyers. The court is hearing petitions now from many frustrated home buyers who claim that they've been misled by builders. They've been promised, in fact, builders have promised them that they are going to cover their EMI payments until possession, but later demanded payments for incomplete or stalled projects. Basically, did not live up to their commitment, and now many home buyers stuck and stranded. In Noida, Greater Noida, Gurugram, surrounding areas, over 378 stalled housing projects that comprises of 1.46 lakh units now left, that's still under construction, and that's left all the home buyers stranded despite the court's earlier orders for builders and bankers to submit compliance affidavits only a handful have finally complied. So what does this now mean for home buyers? With the CBI stepping in, an investigation is expected. It could likely expose the deep links between banks and developers and hold them accountable. Numerous projects that have been stalled, and it seems like uncertainty looms. Despite this intervention by the Supreme Court, how confident are the home buyers? I have them right here with me to give us a little more in detail on how they've been impacted. Joining me live is Nilesh Kumar, Unitech home buyer. Thanks very much, our panelists. Pankaj Gupta, JP home buyer. And also we have with us Amira Jain, real estate expert and founder of Oram Colonizers and Stride Home Build. Thanks very much for taking your time out and giving us your take on what this and how this could impact you and scores of home buyers. Nilesh Kumar of Unitech, could you give us your understanding on what the Supreme Court has said? It's of course cracked a whip, but this wait has been excruciatingly long. You know, there were assurances that were given to you even previously, but doesn't seem to have been fulfilled, and there's no real follow-up. Now with the CBI likely to step in, does that assure you?
Hi, thanks for giving us the opportunity to bring the plight of the home buyers here. Whatever I will speak, that will be majorly in context of the Unitech properties that are yet to be possession or yet to be given, particularly in Noida, because I am more aware and more linked to that particular project. So as far as Unitech home buyers is concerned, definitely that was a construction linked loan that was given by all the finance companies or either the HFC or the banks. It was a construction linked plan. The trouble pertaining to Unitech is that currently many financiers are saying that they will not disburse further because certain payment are still pending that needs to be disbursed by the banks. So banks as of now are hesitant in disbursing that because the project is not complete and they are seeing it as a risk. But initially they did all the due diligence. They are supposed to do all the diligence and they disburse the loan. So when the case has been sanctioned, when the proposal has been sanctioned, they must disburse the entire amount to the home buyer so that undue pain which we have been facing for the last 15 years, almost 15 years. So that should at least be reduced a bit. So, and as far as the court has ordered this move, this is although a bit delayed, but yes, this is definitely a welcome move by the court. And definitely there might be something wrongdoing that might be happening from the builder side or from the bank side, that there might be something. But as far as the Unitech project is concerned, I will only request the court to maybe advise all the banks and all the HFCs, housing finance companies, to disburse the balance loan amount. They should not hold the balance amount because that will create further problem for the buyers.
How about JP home buyer? If Pankaj Gupta could jump in. JP home buyers are struggling equally, and I know how long this has taken for the JP projects to come up. But my limited question and point here is, how did home buyers even agree to this proposal where builders promise to cover your EMIs? I mean, it is an interesting proposition, but also a very risky one. But you still jumped into it and now you're stuck.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak. See, I am a common man. And I remember those days when I used to go to JP head office for buying a flat, and I went there a couple of times, and there were a row of banks sitting there, and they were like pushing us to buy a home in JP, and they are ready to pay home loan on our behalf. And see what happens there. We are a common man, and we have more confidence when bank comes in and say that yes, we are going to pay the amount as a home loan and you pay in EMI. And later on when something happens and they say, hey, why we do not know anything, you owe us money and you keep paying us. We do not know builder, you go and check, you go to court, you do whatever.
Do you see a nexus between the banks and the builders? Is this a nexus between banks and builders, or do you believe that the banks are more helpless, if anything?
Yes, personally, nexus between bank, builder and even brokers, because you see 10 years before you used to get SMS, please go and buy home, only few unit left. You used to get newspaper which used to have more than 30 pages, all are full of ads of home selling home buyers and approved by bank. There was a row written below, approved by ICICI Bank, approved by this bank, approved by that bank. So what happens there? A common man cannot check all those conditions which are written. This is all we were more confident when bank is funding that project. So now after that, what happens? Bank they just raise their hand and they just go away. I can tell you in COVID what happened. I had to stop my EMI because I was supposed to change my job, and bank did not leave me. They made me pay EMI along with delay and interest, which for months I could not pay EMI.
No, we know and we understand very well the financial implications that you may have had to face. It's agonizing, and I can only imagine that this is some lease of hope for you, with the Supreme Court saying that a CBI probe will be carried out. But finally, my question to our real estate expert, Amiraj, is a CBI probe really enough? Should there be more that could be done? We've seen builders flouting rules despite all the possible regulatory orders in place. So a CBI probe like this, will this deter them? Amiraj.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me in. Definitely. See, this may not be enough just to get in CBI, but it is a start. To start somewhere. You see the plight of home buyers. I mean, two of my friends are here, and both have been short charged by builders and banks put together. Now, CBI can only establish the fact. In fact, only CBI can establish the fact that there has been some hobnobbing between bank and the builder. Now, I'll give you a small note that any funding that is done to any buyer while the project is under construction comes under a tripartite agreement. Now, the tripartite agreement comprises of three parties: the funding company, that is the bank or an HFC, the builder and the buyer. Now, the smallest of these three parties is the buyer, and he probably would not have so much of knowledge about what he's signing and what he's not signing. And builders and banks both use this, naivety to their own benefit. Now, you can't tomorrow expect a buyer to check, how good this builder is and how much financially secure they are. Now, this is definitely, stabbing in the back while you first endorse a builder saying, don't worry, we'll fund your project. And then later on, I'm so sorry, you're not doing it rightly. So please, I'm not going to fund it anymore. And yes, Mr. Buyer, please give me my EMI. But there has to be some accountability on financing companies as well.
No doubt.
They can't just walk away scot-free.
Amiraj, as I leave a thought behind for all the home buyers who are aggrieved, what would you say that they do and do at the earliest? What kind of steps can they take right away now that the Supreme Court has intervened?
Well, I think currently as the tripartite stands, the buyer will have to pay EMI interest. The buyer will have to make good of the EMIs not being paid by the bank. This is the legal position. But I think we need to move towards more radical solutions in this. Yeah. It's a very complex problem. And that radical solution has to be that having so on so forth, government should come up with a regulation wherein every unit funded by any bank has to be under subvention by the builder till possession. Now, it may sound that I'm going back to subvention, but please hear me out. That the builder is responsible for the interest on the money that is being paid to him by the bank. Why a poor home buyer is being made a scapegoat while builder is delaying the project? So it is a radical solution, but government has to intervene now, because it is now with RERA there is a lot of hope that is seen by the buyers. Builders are also mending their ways, and I am sure newer projects that are being launched are now will be finished in time. But however, 1.5 lakh home buyers that are left in lurch by the nexus between banks and the builders. So I think the government has to fix the responsibility of paying pre-EMI interest solely on the builder, because delay has nothing to do with the buyer.
Absolutely.
Delay has everything
and let's just hope that compensation is also announced. I don't know if this is too far-fetched, but we're really hoping and wishing for that would act as a balm to their pain, you know. But all the very best. Thanks very much for joining us. We're going to continue tracking the story. We will keep the spotlight on it. All right, shifting our focus to Sunita Williams. What really happens when an astronaut is stuck in space that long? After months in zero gravity, Sunita Williams and Bruce Wilmore are about to make their dramatic return to Earth early this morning. That's basically late tonight, tomorrow morning, technically. While the world celebrates their homecoming, there's one big question: how well and how will their bodies handle gravity again? Space changes, in fact, being in space changes everything literally. It weakens your muscles, it shrinks your bones, weakens balance, and you're left wobbly. The moment they land, even standing up will be a challenge. So how long before they fully recover? And what struggles await them? Let's have a look.
Sunita Williams is all set to return to Earth. She, along with fellow NASA astronaut Barry Butch Wilmore, have been stranded in space for 9 months. The two astronauts had reached the ISS aboard a Boeing Starliner capsule in June of last year, but were unable to return due to concerns surrounding the technical safety of the spacecraft. 9 months later, the return journey is a joint mission by NASA and Elon Musk's SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule that had docked with the International Space Station on Sunday, March 16th. While they eagerly await their return to the planet, they are likely to face several physical complications due to their prolonged exposure to space and a lack of gravity.
For going to space, the main things that happen to people are there's an adaptation phase that happens right away when you get up to space. The components of that are some motion disturbances that can lead to basically a kind of motion sickness in some people. And then the other factor is after that, or the process that your body undergoes to adapt to this new environment that doesn't have gravity in it.
The human body was not built for spaceflight with its microgravity conditions, exposure to high-energy radiation, and other issues. As a result, trekking beyond the Earth's confines causes many physiological changes that affect an astronaut's health.
We have a plan for, we call it a reconditioning plan. And I described a little bit about how when crew go into space, their body adapts to being in space. Well, they kind of have to do the same thing, but in reverse. They have to readapt to being back on the ground. And so that involves, there'll be a landing recovery team. The medical team is part of that. And so we'll go out to the landing site and help get the crew off the vehicle and bring them back here to Houston.
How astronauts recover after returning to Earth depends in large part on mission duration, and the recovery appears proportional to their time in space. Many physiological symptoms gradually return to normal, but some issues persist.
And the body systems, most of them recover back to their baseline in that 45-day period. The one that takes a little bit longer is the bone and reabsorbing calcium that may have been lost. That can take onwards of a year, maybe a little bit longer sometimes, to regain the total amount of calcium back that might have been shed while they were in space.
While their delay was unexpected, it wasn't a life-threatening situation. NASA had ensured their safety and well-being during this time.
We've been, from my perspective, the medical perspective and the exercise, we've been treating them like they're long-duration crew members basically since almost the start of their time in space. And so for these reasons, I feel like they've put in the work in terms of the extra countermeasure system and other things so that we can be confident that when they return, they're going to be very similar to the other long duration crew that have had stays in orbit.
For astronauts, the ISS is their home away from home. They live in a microgravity environment where they conduct experiments and carry out maintenance on the station. However, missions of space come with challenges that affect their health in ways we are still learning to understand. 9 months later, their return journey is a joint mission by NASA and Elon Musk's SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule that had docked with the International Space Station on Sunday, March 16th.
All right, shifting our focus to what's breaking the internet. Viral watch. Let me begin with internet's most famous personality, Orry himself. The man seems to have got himself in trouble. Let me tell you how. The biggest controversy that's now brewing online is how Orry and his friends drank alcohol at a pilgrimage site. Orhan Awatramani, as Orry's real name is, I'm sure many of them didn't know that. He's been booked for allegedly consuming alcohol at a hotel in Katra, the sacred base camp for Vaishno Devi pilgrims. So Katra has a strict ban on alcohol and non-vegetarian food due to its religious significance. But viral photographs of Orry and his group drinking at a local hotel has sparked outrage. In fact, by the time the police acted, they had already left town, is what we are told. The FIR has been registered under BNS section 223 for disobeying public orders and names Orry in it along with 7 of his friends. Massive backlash online. You have angry netizens calling for a ban on Orry for insulting Hindu faith. You had some of them commenting, and I read, religious sites are treated like picnic spots. People openly violate rules. So disheartening. Another one read, not just Orry, influencer Sherry Sin was also drinking in Katra. If we demand action, it must be equal for all. Social media now ablaze. Political pressure is mounting. Question is if Orry will really face legal action. Now, Shashi Tharoor's witty swipe at Donald Trump has gone viral. If I could take you through Shashi Tharoor at his best when asked about Donald Trump and what he thinks of him. In fact, Donald Trump's fiery Oval Office clashes from his February 28th showdown with Zelensky all the way to his sharp exchanges with Macron and Starmer, they're all well known. A new viral video here of Shashi Tharoor being asked about Trump, and in true Tharoor style, his response has sparked much amusement. Even in criticism, Tharoor there seeing his wittiest best.
Look, it's really not our place, especially since I have been introduced as a member of an Indian parliament and so on. I shouldn't be commenting on political leaders in foreign countries on their soil. But having said that, it's also true that people have their political preferences. And mine is not a political preference. I don't pay taxes here, so I don't care if they're lower or higher. I don't, I'm not seeking to be an immigrant here. Even when I had the right to apply, I didn't. And therefore, I'm not worried about their stand on immigration. Those are other issues. On policy issues, everybody in this hall is entitled to their own preferences. But just the personal manner strikes me as not entirely as agreeable or pleasant as one would like to see in a distinguished American political figure. I had the great honor of meeting 4 or 5 American presidents during my time in the US and having detailed conversations with both the Bushes, with Clinton, much more briefly with Obama. I mean, these are people of certain class, a certain distinction, and it's not politics. There are 2 Republicans in that list and 2 Democrats. But there was a certain both political heft, statesman-like gravitas, and intellectual quality that I find woefully lacking in this gentleman. That's the personal way.
All right, now you have French politician Raphael Glucksmann, who's created a controversy asking for United States to hand over the Statue of Liberty back to France. And the response that's come in from the United States spokesperson, the White House spokesperson, is indeed interesting. In fact, let's take you through exactly what was said. As we see, the spokesperson of the White House, when asked whether the Statue of Liberty that was gifted by France in 1986 to the United States, that symbolizes freedom and democracy, will be given back. And when asked this, a sharp and straight response came from her. just as bold as the claim itself. Here's what she said.
There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
All right, that's it for me here. Nabila. Be back every night, 9 p.m. on this special Unmissable, where we take you through news from India and across the world. Same time, same place tomorrow. Have a great night.
What does it take to be the greatest in the world? There is one thing which truly sets you apart. Your inner strength. So did TMT Reebok. True in